I think it is
things like
not an
that.
occupational hazard if someone is being forced to work 8 hours under 120 degrees
And
without
employers-
getting regular breaks.
And employers are already taking action to
So
protect
you
workers
believe
from heat.
employers should have the responsibility to decide
have a
who dies and who
responsibility to keep-
survives in the heat?
They have a responsibility to keep their workers safe, most definitely, but that is separate and apart from
So you're
OSHA's
saying
authority.
those employers who have not done that, who have seen people die at their workplaces in places like Texas, it's just because they're bad people and we shouldn't have the responsibility of protecting the workers is what I hear.
That's not what I'm saying, but thank you.
Facts don't care about your feelings. And that truth hit hard in this hearing. When Ilhan Omar tried to corner a witness with a gotcha question, she wasn't ready for what came next. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to 50 Patriots, grab a seat, get comfortable, and let's dive right back into it.
And lastly, before I yield back my time, Mr. Molino, Ms. Molino, why do you believe workers suffering heat exhaustion is not a work hazard?
Excuse me. It is a public health hazard, and OSHA is limited by what the authority that Congress has delegated it. OSHA has authority to regulate and oversee occupational hazards.
Yeah, standards, right?
Occupational hazards.
Yes. And why would you not? Why would you not
water,
think it is
things like
not an
that.
occupational hazard if someone is being forced to work 8 hours under 120 degrees
And employers-
without getting regular breaks?
And employers are already taking action to
So
protect
you
workers
believe
from heat.
employers should have the responsibility to decide
have a
who dies and who
responsibility to keep-
survives in the heat?
They have a responsibility to keep their workers safe, most definitely, but that is separate and apart from
So you're
OSHA's
saying
authority.
those employers who have not done that, who have seen people die at their workplaces in places like Texas, it's just because they're bad people and we shouldn't have the responsibility of protecting the workers is what I hear.
That's not what I'm saying, but thank you.
I thank the gentlelady. I recognize now the gentleman from California, Mr. Kiley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the last Congress, this committee held the Biden administration accountable for its anti-worker agenda. And now that we've turned the page, we have an incredible opportunity to enable and facilitate the pro-worker, pro-small business, pro-growth policies that are coming from the new administration. But this committee's oversight proved particularly critical when President Biden made the baffling decision to elevate the state labor secretary with the very worst record in the country to be his Secretary of Labor. And our committee actually brought in Ms. Julie Su for a hearing at that time where we were able to show how she was the Secretary of Labor for the state, California, that had the single highest rate of unemployment in the entire country in her tenure, first out of 50, had the lowest rate of wage growth in the entire country, 50 out of 50, and had the highest rate of real poverty in the country, first out of 50. And then that she also was the architect of the most disgraceful, notorious labor law in modern U.S. history, that being AB 5. Now, after she came in for a hearing here, the U.S. Senate refused to confirm her. Her nomination was stopped with bipartisan opposition. But of course, the Biden administration chose to lawlessly keep her at the helm of the Labor Department for the entire tenure of the administration. And in that position, she did indeed attempt to federalize the failed policies of California by implementing a new rule that was designed to mimic the effects of AB 5 in California as far as limiting the freedom of independent contractors. Now, the good news is that that regulation has not yet wreaked the sort of damage that we had anticipated, perhaps because of the illegitimacy of Ms. Su's tenure at the helm of the Labor Department, which shattered all records, by the way, for an acting unconfirmed secretary. But nevertheless, we still find ourselves in the situation where that regulation is on the books, where there continues to be uncertainty as far as the livelihoods of independent contractors, the ability of small business businesses to work with them. So in order to resolve this issue, to provide certainty, to protect the rights of workers and countless enterprises across the country, I've introduced the Modern Worker Empowerment Act, which would specify that the classification standard for an independent contractor comes down to two intuitive factors. Number one being the degree of control of the hiring entity over the work performed, and the second being the opportunity for profit or loss, or the opportunities and risks inherent to entrepreneurship. This is a pretty common sense standard designed to say that if you truly are running your own enterprise, then you don't need to be forced into a W-2 classification. In addition to that, I've introduced the Modern Worker Security Act. So we have the Modern Worker Empowerment Act and the Modern Worker Security Act. This legislation is designed to encourage the use of portable benefits, which will provide a level of a social safety net for independent workers that they can take with them from job to job, things like health care and retirement savings. The problem in existing law is that if associations or companies or other groups choose to provide those benefits, then it's kind of like no good deed goes unpunished. You've had that then used by regulators to say, oh, look at that, you're providing benefits, you must be an employer. We're going to force this to be considered a W-2 arrangement, which is not what either party to the transaction wants. So it's had this chilling effect on the ability to offer portable benefits and for workers to have that measure of security. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to move both of those measures through this committee and provide more certainty to millions of folks across the country. I think this will have a tremendous impact on our workforce. And maybe with the remaining time, Ms. Melito, since you mentioned this, the labor regulation, the independent contractor regulation in your testimony, could you just give us a sense of how damaging this uncertainty has been for small businesses?
Yeah, it's created a lot of headaches for business owners who cannot determine whether or not somebody they've hired once a week to come in and do their website improvement needs to be, as you put it, a W-2 person, or because they also do website work for other businesses, can I pay them, as an independent contractor? Because they have their own business, they have their own business card there. The Empowerment Act that you have introduced would be very helpful on that front in codifying that simple, very simple two-factor test that the Trump rule had. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I yield back.
This hearing is a perfect example of what happens when political grandstanding runs headfirst into real legal expertise. Representative Ilhan Omar thought she had the perfect trap. She tried to force a simple yes or no answer about heat exhaustion, hoping to paint the witness as some heartless villain who doesn't care if workers live or die. But Miss Melito didn't take the bait. Omar demanded to know why extreme heat isn't treated as an occupational hazard under OSHA. She framed it emotionally, pushing the idea that if OSHA doesn't regulate it, then employers are being allowed to decide who survives the heat. That's the soundbite she wanted. That's the clip she wanted for social media. Instead, she got a lesson in how the law actually works. Ms. Melito calmly explained that heat is a public health hazard, not an occupational hazard, as defined under OSHA's current statutory authority. OSHA can only regulate what Congress has explicitly authorized it to regulate. Agencies don't get to invent powers just because a politician feels strongly about an issue. And that's where Omar completely lost control of the moment. Rather than engage with the legal reality, she pivoted straight to moral attacks, implying that employers who don't meet her preferred regulatory standard are just bad people. That's not oversight. That's not lawmaking. That's emotional manipulation. Ms. Melito repeatedly made one thing clear. Employers already have a responsibility to keep workers safe. That was never in dispute. What was in dispute was whether a federal agency can exceed its legal authority just because a member of Congress wants it to. Words matter. Definitions matter. Jurisdiction matters. OSHA doesn't regulate the sun. It regulates workplace hazards as defined by Congress. If Omar wants heat reclassified, there's a constitutional process for that. Legislation. Not bullying a witness during a hearing and pretending legal limits don't exist. What made this moment so powerful was a contrast. One side was operating on vibes, outrage, and theatrics. The other side was operating on statutes, authority, and the Constitution. And then the hearing moved on, exposing another uncomfortable truth. Many of the same politicians who claim to be pro-worker are responsible for policies that crush small businesses destroyed independent contracting, and created massive regulatory confusion. That's why proposals like the Modern Worker Empowerment Act matter, because clarity protects workers and businesses alike. At the end of the day, Ms. Melito didn't just answer a question. She reminded everyone watching that caring about an issue doesn't give politicians the right to ignore the law. Facts matter. The Constitution matters. And this was Ilhan Omar getting schooled on the record. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Like the video. Subscribe to 50 Patriots. Share this with friends who follow political hearings. And see you in the next one.